we're good to go.
Okay, I'd like to thank everyone and welcome them for attending the Village of New Paltz Planning Board regular meeting of Tuesday, January 4th, 2022. The posted agenda has a manner in which you can view the meeting by Zoom and YouTube. And if you would like to participate in the meeting, there is a link that is attached. So tonight we will be having an administrative business session where we're going to talk about the approval of the December 21st, 2021 minutes. Did it just bounce?
Yeah, it did, but you're back now, at least voice.
Okay, I don't know why my computer is bouncing. I don't know why my computer is bouncing on and off of that, but we'll just deal with it as it comes and occurs. We will also be looking at public hearings, the site plan for 27 Millbrook Road. We will also be doing a public hearing for the site plan for, do I have the right one? Is this it? Tuesday the 4th, yes. We'll also be doing a public hearing for Zero Place, PB 1602. Then we'll move to application reviews, site plan for PB 21-15, 27 Millbrook Road, site plan for 2119, 140 Huguenot Street. We'll be looking at the subdivision plan for PB 2121 on Prospect Street. And then we will be looking at the site plan for PB 2117 South Chestnut, and then PB 1602 David Shepler and Zero Place, followed by closing the public comments and adjourning for the evening. So with that in mind, we're going to get started here with the administrative business here. Did everyone get a chance to look at the December 21st, 2021 minutes? I think Alana sent those out as the last thing that she did.
I did.
Yep, they look good to me.
Okay. So I'd like to get a motion to approve the minutes for December 21st, 2021.
So motion.
Second,
Seconded.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So the motion carries. Next, Bill, if you want to give us some updates from the Village Board, the Ulster County Planning Board, and the Environmental Planning Board.
Ulster County Planning Board has this month yet. We meet tomorrow, so real no update and really no update from the village.
Okay. Next, what I would like to do is there is a spreadsheet that was presented to us by Alana that has tracking on all of the applications from 2021 and 2022. Has anybody seen? Has anybody seen that spreadsheet? I'm going to take this out.
Yes, I'm looking at it now.
Okay. Dennis, have you seen that as well?
No, I haven't seen it.
Okay. Tom, how about you?
I have not.
Okay. I'm going to send those over to you after we are done. I'm going to make a note here to send those over to you. It has a rather comprehensive look at what activities occurred during 2021. It also has information about what is currently outstanding for 2022. And it'll be good to give you a sense of where we are. And we want to continue to use that as a manner of tracking the progress of things coming through. It will tell you Have they submitted the various forms, the money, things of that nature? So let me make a note here to send this to you. Okay. So we're going to move on here. The next thing that we want to look at are the memos that came from the Historic Preservation Committee. Has anybody seen those? Have you guys seen those at all?
Yes, I read through those.
Okay. So the first one is a memo regarding downtown district, which was put together around 12/26. And I will briefly read it here to you. It says, whereas under Chapter 9, Section 20 of the New Paltz Village Code, HPC, the Village of New Paltz, granted authority to recommend to the Board of Trustees of the Village of New Paltz the creation of new historic districts. And whereas since 2009, the downtown business district of the Village of New Paltz has been recognized as an historic district on the New York State Register and National Register of Historic Places. And whereas the Historic Preservation Committee has determined that the current New York State Register and National Register of Historic Places, with the addition of the full length of Wirtz Avenue and the full length of Main Street within the village, as delineated on the map, meet the criteria for historic distinction described in New Paltz Village Code, Chapter 9, Section 20. Whereas a systematic oversight of future new development and major exterior renovations by the HPC in coordination with the Building Department and Planning Board will help to promote the protection and preservation of the historic character of the community at large. And whereas inappropriate future new developments and major renovations in the downtown areas of the village in both the immediate and long term may cause irreversible harm to the historic character of those areas and to the entire community, and the village principally occupied with determining compliance with existing building codes rather than with long-term planning based on community design standards. And whereas the HPC has overseen new construction and exterior renovation during the time of applications for certificates of appropriateness and other situations related to historic preservation. Therefore, be it resolved that the current New York State Register of Historic Places, let me restart this. The historic New York State Register and National Register of Historic Places District, the full length of Wirtz Avenue and the full length of Main Street within the village be designated as a New Paltz Downtown Historic District. And by virtue of this designation, be subject to the same oversight and protections by the HPC of the Village of New Paltz that currently apply to the existing Huguenot Street District. So are there any objections to this? Any modifications that anyone believes needs to be made? Okay.
I don't have any.
So I mean, maybe this is a question that I need to ask Tom and the HPC, but the more I think about it, the more that I'm not sure that expanding the historic district is the best way to accomplish this goal of having an design review board. And I'm wondering why the previous method of changing the zoning was abandoned in favor of this. I think that there's going to be a little more community opposition to labeling large parts of the village historic district, and there might be some misunderstandings about what that means. So I'm still a little a little hesitant to push forward with this proposal.
Okay, those would be good questions for Tom, and certainly what I would invite you to do, I'm gonna send him some notes here, but I would invite you to send those notes, copy me on those concerns as well. I think this is a proposal to expand it only. So let's see what he has to say about that. I know that this will probably come up before the Board of Trustees in the very near future. So you're essentially saying that you believe that there's going to be community opposition to the expanded historic district, and you're wondering why the
Well, I just think that the better way to do this might be through a zoning change to the village code, rather than having the HPC exercise its authority to expand the historic district.
Okay. All right, so I've made those notes there. I'll give those over to Tom, but if you can just kind of expand on that, I think that would be good, and we can get that off to him so that
Sure.
he has something to go back with. his
I
group.
haven't looked at it, but I would imagine that they're going to have to do this by a local law to change the code in order to give that jurisdiction to the HPC, because they have a certain defined, rather limited jurisdiction now, and it would take a local law to go ahead and change that. So I'm assuming that that's what they're asking for, but I don't know. I haven't read that. I didn't know those were going to be up for discussion tonight, so I apologize.
Well, that's fine. They came to us rather late, so place them on there.
Well, I think in the current code, the HPC has the authority to recommend to the Board of Trustees the creation of new historic districts.
Correct.
So,
But in
Yeah.
order to do that, the Board of Trustees would have to pass a local law to do that.
I see.
Okay. All right, so I'm going to save this. I've made those notes. We'll see how this is going to move forward. And I apologize for not being visible on camera, but it just seems this is not going to be a time when my camera. So the second item that they had that's going to go before the village board is a resolution to change the name of the Village Historic Preservation Committee. And it talks about establishing a volunteer commission named the Historic Preservation Committee of the Village of New Paltz, and that since 2001, the HPC has endeavored to fulfill its charges as outlined under Chapter 9, Section 16. And it lists those as to protect and enhance landmark and historic districts, which represent distinctive elements of the historic architectural and cultural heritage of the village. To focus attention on and foster civic pride in the historic resources of the village. 3, protect and enhance attractiveness of the village to visitors and support and provide stimulus to the local economy. And 4, ensure the harmonious, orderly, and efficient growth and development of the village. And with a systematic architectural design review by the HPC in coordination with the building department and planning board will help the commission better to protect and preserve the historic character of the village at large. And whereas the HPC has determined that it could more accurately fulfill the legislative intent of Chapter 9, Section 16, and meet its 4 charges under that section by changing its legal name to the Design Review Board and Historic Preservation Commission of the Village of New Paltz. They're asking that the current Historic Preservation Commission of the Village of New Paltz be renamed the Design Review Board and Historic Preservation Commission of the Village of New Paltz, and as appropriate be referred to by the new acronym of the initials. So I think in this one, what they're trying to do is to, I think that they're asking for the very things that you were speaking about earlier. By changing this, it would give them more authority, and I think that they are looking to do that. And it, as you mentioned, Rick, it would probably take a local law change in order to do that. So anybody have any comments on this one?
If I may, John, just a point of
Please.
clarity. It's not about just authority, it's about clarity.
Okay. In what sense?
Well, you mentioned that that the commission would be given more authority, which is true, but it's also hand in hand with offering clarity to the community as to their role.
Okay.
But Bill, you agree that it would take a local law, public hearing, et cetera, in order to modify the code to conform to that change, right?
I think I'm free to say yes.
Yeah. Well, you don't have to say yes. So you'll be relying upon Will anyway. But
Yeah.
that's my
Right.
understanding of what it would take.
That's correct.
Okay. All right. Well, barring any further comments, I'm going to go ahead and close those out. And I will pass along those comments so that we have them for the HPC to review. So with that in mind, we have now covered the review of the HPC memos. So we have finished our administrative business. We are now going to move on to public comment. Ariana, do you find anyone waiting to make any public comments?
Seems like Susan might want to.
I do.
Very good.
Shall I-
And-
Should I do it or should I wait?
no, please, it'll be fine. And you are Susan Denton, is that correct?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
John, you may want to open up each of the public hearings and then have people comment on each one of the two that are up for public hearings.
Okay, as opposed to just, well, Susan, this is just for a general public comment.
Oh, this is for general? Okay,
It is.
Yeah, this is not related to a specific
got it.
item, whereas if it does, you certainly are free to speak to those when we come up in the public hearings. So with that, go right ahead, Susan.
Okay. The reason I'm here tonight is as a member of UACT, which is Ulster Activists, and also representing myself. And I've been watching meetings for a while, and I've been talking with different people who are involved with housing. I'm on the housing committee. And I wanted to just dip in tonight and say that I'm so impressed and so pleased at the kinds of things I'm seeing from the planning board. The consideration given, well, right now we're working with Keith Leibold on his project as it stands. And, you know, just the thoughtfulness and the intent that's given towards the project is a good thing in my book. I feel like we need affordable housing, and I feel like you know that, and I feel like that's a good thing. So I just wanted to, you know, come in here tonight and say thanks, and I look forward to working with you in the future.
Well, thank
We all
you.
do.
We appreciate your comments.
Okay.
Bolton, there I popped off again. The Leibold project is certainly going to be an interesting project, and with the affordable housing as an emphasis, I think it's going to be good for the community. So we'll see how that moves forward.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else who wants to make a general public comment before the board? Okay. Hearing none, then we're going to leave this open until the end of the meeting in case there are other comments that come to us so that we can allow those people who wish to speak the opportunity to do so, giving them the full opportunity by virtue of the online presence that we have, and the difficulty it might be for us to have people here in a timely manner. So we will now, with that in mind, we are going to move forward. And the next issues are the public hearing. So the first public hearing is a site plan for PB 2115 27 Millbrook Road. The applicant Alex Pay, the zoning district R1 SBL 862. So I need a motion, please, to open the public hearing.
So motioned.
Second, please.
Second.
So the all in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, so the public hearing for site plan PB 2115 is now open. Is there anyone present who wishes to speak to the site plan? Ariana, do you have anyone online who wishes to speak to this?
Not that they have indicated,
Very
but
good.
if you are somebody who does, just unmute yourself.
Okay, so hearing none, then I will ask for a motion to close the public hearing on site plan PB 2115.
So motioned.
Second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So that public hearing is now closed. So we will move on to the next public hearing. The public hearing is for PB 1602, Zero Place. Like to get a motion to open that public hearing.
So motion.
A second,
Seconded.
all in favor?
Aye.
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 So the public hearing for Zero Place, PB 1602 is now open. Is there anyone who wishes to speak to that public hearing? If
Yes,
so-
I do. Yes, I do. I have not seen the change in plan from the original. I don't know where to find it, but I am the property next door, okay, at 113 North Chestnut. My concern, okay, is headlights parked in my direction. When the original plan went through, it was supposed to have a visual barrier so that headlights would not protrude over to my property. The way I see the parking existing now, especially with the juice bars, you know, what I call your chargers, they're all facing me. Okay. I had asked originally for a visual barrier. All I see is a bunch of small plants. Okay. And that's not sufficient.
Okay, I'm just making.
David, do you have any comment on that one?
Hold on, just a minute, sir. Everyone wait just a minute, please.
Okay.
So,
I'm hard of hearing, so
excuse me, just a moment, please. So your primary comment or objection is that there was a visual barrier that was requested and promised. You're
that was
seeing no visual barrier from the parking lot, is that correct?
correct to my property next door. Okay.
And
All I
what
see,
is your property?
113 North Chestnut Street. Just north of Zero Place.
Access, right?
Yes. Yes.
Okay,
I'm sorry.
Access, yes.
Yes, I'm sorry. I'm hard of hearing, so my wife is saying yes in the background for me.
all right. David, would you like to respond to that?
Is that, I guess I'm happy to. It's not relevant to the specifics of this parking space issue. But if
No,
you
I don't
want-
know what the parking, I'm sorry, David, finish. I'm sorry.
Yeah. I mean, we've met the requirements of the plan, which is we planted plantings along the full edge, north edge of the parking lot. Those plantings do take some time to fill out. We can't plant a robust hedge line on day one, but the plan is for that hedgerow to grow together where the screening would comply with the original plan.
Well, that doesn't work until another 5 to 10 years for the hedgerow to grow to, not have headlights shining on my property. Okay, it is a nuisance. And, in an original plan, okay, I had even said that at that point, I don't want headlights facing. I didn't give you a hassle, okay, on doing what you wanted to do there. Okay, but I said I needed a visual barrier, and the plants are not sufficient and will not grow into a hedgerow to accommodate that. So I don't know what this new design is or not, but here's my public comment. Okay.
Dennis, can I say one more thing?
Yeah.
We're happy to have a sidebar conversation with you about contributing some plantings on your property to help with screening, if you'd like to take that up with me.
Well, I would.
I can tell you that our plan is consistent with what was approved by this planning board.
Yeah, which was, a mess to begin with, but I understand that, David. It's just the way that it went down. I'm not commenting on that because I was at the public hearings. I didn't, see a problem with it at that point, but I'm looking at 5.5-story building, okay, with lights, okay, where I can't see beyond that. Okay, and that's each of the apartments, et cetera. Now with headlights facing me, I did not expect those headlights, okay, to be able to do that. You've got your charging stations right there as well. So yes, we need a sidebar if that's the case, okay, but I do want a visual barrier there, and I want that on public record.
Thank you. We do appreciate you making that. So the planning board recognizes that you do have an issue that you would like to resolve, and we'll also note that Mr. Shepler has requested that you have a side conversation with him where you might be able to resolve that issue. So
hopefully, yeah.
Very good.
Okay.
Hopefully. Go ahead, David. Sorry.
I'll also add that we've actually improved the conditions of that parking lot. That was a parking lot previously. You'll remember that was a park and ride. We've actually added screening.
Right. I know, because the water was pouring down onto my property. I know that. And when you put that wall up, that helped a good bit, okay, to keep the water from running down onto the property and draining into the stream from there. Okay, I could show you rivulets, okay, and, like a second stream that was coming from there originally. I don't see it again. So I appreciate that.
Very good. Okay, so we have we've noted the request, and Mr. Shepler has made an offer to meet with you. So at this point, we're going to consider that your request is being worked on, and that is being actively worked on, and I will follow up with Mr. Shepler after he has met with you and determine what actions are going to be done to rectify or ameliorate that problem.
Okay, I appreciate that.
So next, is there anyone else who wishes to speak to the matter of Zero Place that has been brought up here? Is anyone? No? Okay. Then what we're going to do is we're going to hold this public hearing open until the next meeting, so that those who may not have had the opportunity get a chance to speak. So need a motion, please, to hold the public hearing open until the meeting of January 18th.
So motion.
I need a second, please.
Seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
So the motion passes. This public hearing will be held open until January 18th. So thank you very much. And now we are going to move on to the application reviews. The first application review we have is for site plan PB 2115, 27 Millbrook. The applicant is Alex Pay. It's been listed as a type 2 under seeker. The plans have been submitted. I understand that today or that a check has been submitted, an escrow account has been established. Confirm that with Floyd. Floyd, is that true?
Did you say Floyd?
I did. You weren't listening.
Yeah, we dropped off a check last week to the building department.
Okay. So we have established an escrow account. Very good. Okay. Let me open up another document for a moment here. Okay, it's PB 2115, summary application for site plan approval to construct a new single-family residence on the 1.9 acre vacant parcel in the R1 zoning district. Type 2 action. Referral was required, or is required. I don't believe the referral has been made. Is that correct, Ariana?
I am not entirely sure about that. I thought Alana's email said that she would do that, but I have not looked into it yet.
I see a document in the folder, in the project folder, that's a referral response from the UCPB.
You want to pull that up and just take a quick look at that? I don't have that in front of me there, so.
Yeah, it says no county impact.
Very good, thank you. So I'll make the note that a referral. So we did have the driveway maintenance agreement that was approved. Anything else that we need to be aware of? Rick, would you like to weigh in on that?
The thing that has to be resolved is you have to make the requisite findings for rec fee. So you would have to go ahead and determine that there's a need in the village for recreation needs generally, and that this application, by having a new residence under your site plan regulations, is going to add to that need, and that there's no room on the particular site to have the requisite public recreation situated there, and therefore there needs to be a parkland fee in lieu of putting parkland assessed against the property that must be paid prior to the plans being signed.
Okay, so the first step then is to, I'm sorry, lead us back through that if you would, please.
Sure, I think you can do an all-in-one motion, since I think it's pretty clear you've been through these things a lot. And so I think a motion would be in order that a recreation fee be assessed against the property in accordance with the village schedule, fee schedule, because there is a need in the village for recreation, that this application will contribute to that need, and that there is no room on the site to place that recreation need, and therefore the fee will be assessed.
Does anyone here, does anyone in the board have a differing opinion to that, that there may not be a need for recreation, or is everyone in agreement? So I'm going to take by your silence that everybody is in agreement. There's no contrary opinion. Therefore, I am going to ask for a motion this application to be assessed a rec fee according to the village formula based upon the need for recreation and the inability of the applicant to place recreation facilities on the site.
No motion.
A second, please.
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, very good. So the motion passed. What else do we need to do with this one tonight?
I think that normally what you would do right now is that the planning board secretary would go ahead and draft a resolution. Right now, you don't have a planning board secretary. Because this is a little bit different than some of the simpler ones. I had stated to you, Mr. Chairman, that we would offer at no fee to go ahead and draft that resolution.
Okay, so with the sense of the board, given all that has transpired, all the information that we've gathered, just to get a sense of the board, would like to get a motion to allow the our attorney to craft a resolution of approval, which we can then read and vote on during our next meeting on the 18th.
No motion.
Second.
Sorry, I still have one question that I don't think was answered by the applicant, and that was regarding the placement of the rain garden. And I asked if that if the positioning of that was going to be adequate to drain the runoff or handle the runoff given the elevation. Was that ever addressed with a engineer or the designer?
Not that I'm aware of, Zach. Typically, those types of things would be addressed either by an applicant's engineer, professional engineer, and you could accept their conclusions. Being professional engineers, they have a duty to the public to correctly assess something, especially when representing before a public board. Or the other thing is to go ahead and send it to your planning board engineer to review. But typically, those are things that the planning board members are not qualified to go ahead and determine whether or not that would be adequate to handle the stormwater runoff. And to my knowledge, that hasn't been addressed yet on this application.
So that's an issue that's still outstanding. Floyd, have you made an attempt to address this? Is this something that your engineer would be able to handle, or is this something that we need to punt to our planning board engineer, village engineer?
On a second, can you hear me?
Yes.
Sorry. If I understand correctly, Zach's concern is about the elevation in relationship to the house. I can confirm with the engineer, but as long as it's low enough to catch the rain leaders coming off of the house, that it would be sufficient. The reason for its placement was to maintain setbacks from the well and the septic disposal system area. So I can ask him if that's sufficient or if we need to adjust the location. And I can do so before the next meeting, if that's sufficient.
So if we get that back from you, then we can make this, resolution then conditional on receiving that information and the approval by the board of that information that you send. Is that correct, Mr. Attorney?
Well, there's really no need to have a condition. It's either going to be presented and you'll accept it, and therefore there's no need to have a condition. Or if you don't accept it, then you wouldn't pass the resolution. But I think that it's, unless I'm mistaken, Zach, I think you were more concerned than simply with the elevation vis-a-vis the well and the septic, that you also wanted to know whether or not there was adequate provision by this rain garden or any other stormwater facilities in order to handle stormwater runoff so that it wouldn't adversely affect surrounding properties.
Yes, that's correct. That's what I was concerned about.
And so I think what is needed is, and it can be very short, it can be just a few paragraphs or something, but there should be a report by the engineer that, based upon his calculations and the topography and everything, that the stormwater facilities and placement of the rain gardens at a particular location will be sufficient, and he should sign and seal that opinion, and then the board would be able to rely upon that.
Floyd, can you have that for us at the next meeting?
Absolutely. Yeah, it's it's the same design that we had approved for the other two lots, and it's simply based on the square footage of the house and the area around it. So I can just have that process done again.
Well, it has to be specific, if I might interrupt, but it has to be specific to this lot. Every lot is a little bit different as to what way water is going to be flowing on the site, and the rate that the water is going to be flowing off of the site, as your engineer knows, is that the rate of flow off the site cannot be any greater after the construction than what it is right now. And that's what he has to assess and give an opinion on. And then this board can rely upon that opinion of a professional engineer.
Sure.
Zach, is that acceptable?
Yes, that's exactly what I'm interested in.
Okay.
Thank you.
Rachel, were you making a comment there that I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off?
I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm in a car. That's not obvious. It's a little difficult. I had two questions about that. One is that it appears like as though the wells on the site there's water running out of them constantly. And I don't know, as far as the before or after construction, are you taking into consideration the fact that the wells are running all the time? And I guess the other thing I wanted to mention was that I just wanted them to be doubly aware of the fact that the subdivision prohibits the use of asphalt on the driveway. It's got to be gravel.
Thank you, Rachel. So Floyd, is the driveway currently asphalt or planned to be asphalt, or is it planned to be gravel?
It's planned to be gravel, and the applicant is in complete agreement with that. He feels the same way.
Okay. And the issue with the wells, would you like to address that?
This well for this lot does not have water running out of it. The well on the lot next door at 31 Mill Brook does have water coming out. I don't know if it's 100% of the time, but it certainly does when it's wet out, has water coming out of it. But this well does not, and I haven't ever seen it have water come out. But I can ask the engineer about how they deal with that, if that's part of stormwater runoff or how that's dealt with.
Okay, if you can please make that part of the report that you're going to bring back to us.
Sure.
Okay, with that information, is there anything else that we need to cover related to this application that we want to see provided to us before we get a final vote on the preparation of a resolution and then the final vote next week or the next meeting of approval of this application? Nothing else? Okay. Then I would like then to, if I could please, let's go circle back. I'd like to get a motion to approve the preparation of a resolution of approval for this application.
No motion.
Second, please.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, so he's going to prepare their firm's going to prepare a resolution for approval. Before it is approved, we are going to require that we get this information from the applicant that is related to the engineer, to the stormwater runoff, to the issues of other runoffs in the area that might be from wells from adjoining properties, so that we can be assured that it will not have an adverse effect. So that's kind of where we stand.
And there's the other thing that may occur is that the engineer, when looking at it, may decide that it needs some other kind of stormwater facility, some gravel someplace, or a small retention pond or something, if the rain gardens are insufficient. So if in fact it needs that, then the applicant should go ahead and modify the plans accordingly and submit the plans in time to be voted on at the January 18th meeting.
Thank you. Anything that you have issue with there, Floyd, on what we discussed?
No.
Okay, very good. So we will look forward to seeing you with that information on our meeting on the 18th. Moving ahead, we have now the site plan PB 2119, 140 Huguenot Street. Maria Perry Keener, and pardon me if I'm mispronounced.
No, that's right.
Corey did have a note in his file, so let me see if I can pull that up, and I don't know whether it got to everyone or not. Okay, so Corey did send out a late afternoon note from here, and I'm going to send it to everybody here just as we finish. What it essentially says is, I reviewed the survey, cross-referenced it. Current lot coverage is 12.14% lot coverage. Proposed hot tub will increase the impervious lot coverage by 48 square feet, potentially bringing the new lot coverage to 12.28%, complying with the 30% maximum lot coverage requirement. Hot tub placement is behind the property, not creating an unsightly visual element. Hot tub placement appears to comply with all setback requirements. Difficult to determine the northern side yard setback. It looks as if the measurements didn't allow for a side yard encroachment. Says I'd recommend to the applicant that because of the proximity to the side yard setback limit, that the applicant draw in a scaled dimensional line hot tub to the plans prior to us signing the to show that the his English is atrocious, signing to show that the appliance cannot be any closer than 20 feet to the side yard setback. So let's go back over that again. The hot tub placement appears to comply with all setbacks. It was hard to determine the northern side yard setback. It looked as if the measurements didn't allow for a side yard encroachment. I would recommend to the applicant that because of the proximity to the side yard setback limit, that the applicant draw in a scaled dimensional line hot tub to the plans prior to PB chair signing to show that the appliance cannot be any closer than 20 feet to the side yard setback. Is that clear to everyone? Is that clear to you, ma'am?
Well, it's not clear to me. We have to come back with a new drawing saying we're going to agree to a 20-foot distance. Because we're happy to do that, but it seems silly to draw and come back to another meeting.
Well, what we can do is we can get as we did to the individual is we can authorize a drafted resolution. And we're going to actually, what we're going to do is we have to set a public hearing. I'm sorry. We need to set a public hearing for our next action. And so it will give you time to do that. And I will send you, in fact, if I were you, I would contact Corey to get exactly what he wants done in writing so that you can know exactly what's expected of you.
Well, we're just slightly frustrated because we've already contacted Corey and we made sure the appliance, which is correct description, is like not going to be visible from the street and committed to that.
Correct.
So what further do you think Corey needs after we?
He's saying, I think, Tom, he's saying that he needs to show 20 feet on the side.
Yes.
From on our props. So from where the hot tub is placed, 20 feet, just draw a line, just make sure there's 20 feet, I guess, from us, our property line and Ethel's property line, something like that.
simply agree to do that? Can't we just simply commit
Yeah,
in this meeting rather than drawing it and sending it back?
No, Corey, the planning board has to rely on Corey to certify various aspects. So it needs to go through
Okay.
him.
no problem. No, we can do that. It's no problem.
Okay.
Okay.
Because they have to
So-
do a public hearing in 2 weeks anyway, right? Something like that?
Right.
Okay.
The last item was additionally to further to point 4, he was unable to see if the 10-foot setback to the principal building setback requirement had been met. He said he would advise you to also show the same proximity setback on the plans as well. He's not asking for you to get new plans. He's just asking for you to show the 20-yard side yard setback, 20-foot side yard setback, and the 10-foot setback to the principal building. And
I mean, okay, so from the, okay, because it's going to be like like kind of right adjacent or on the garage, but the property, right, the house they mean, right?
correct. That's the principal.
Okay. Principal is
building.
the house. Okay.
And
Okay.
that will, once we have that, that will allow you to go smoothly.
Okay.
This is a letter to the planning board. So I would ask Corey to give you, what he requests from you, and I think that you'll be able to comply with that. The next thing that you're going to have to do is you're going to have to, we're going to be setting a public hearing here in just a few minutes. So you're going to have to work with Corey and with Ariana in getting the public hearing draft notice out. Something that you're going to have to send out, we'll need an affidavit that's a proof of mailing. The building department will assist you with that, and I believe Ariana is going to be helping until we get a permanent replacement in that position. So tomorrow, it would be a good idea to call Corey and also to call Ariana. Ariana, if you can reach out to them as well, that way they know how to get in touch with you.
Okay, so I've gotten those public notices before in the mail, so we would draft that one. It looks fair, but it looks like some kind of template.
I'll send you the template. Don't worry.
Okay. Yeah, it seems like a template. I've seen a few of them. Okay.
Yeah. So what I then need, if because you're going to have to get this information out by Friday, is that correct, Ariana, in order to meet the next public hearing at the next meeting? Is that correct?
I'm not honestly sure right this second, but I will definitely get that information to you. Don't worry.
Okay, thank you. Yeah.
So we're going to go ahead. I'm sorry, ma'am.
We'll do it in the next day or so.
Okay. So we are going then now to ask for a motion to set the public hearing for PB 2119, 140 Huguenot Street to the next meeting, 1/18/2022.
No motion.
Second on that?
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So we have a public hearing that is now set. Tomorrow, please reach out to both Corey and to Ariana so that you can get the information you need, the templates that you need, and so we can get that moving. And once it is done, then you can reappear here, and things will probably move very smoothly. Okay.
Thank you.
The other thing, John.
Yes, sir.
Or Ariana, it's really for Ariana, is that I believe this is within the distance that notice of the public hearing has to be sent to the town because it's close to the town boundary.
Okay, got it.
Okay. Very good. Well, thank you very much for working with us, and we'll see you in 2 weeks. So now we're going to be moving on to subdivision PB 2121, Prospect Street and Henry W. Du Bois. The applicant, Floyd Niffen. And let me move over to the notes. So this is an application to divide a 0.77 acre parcel into 4 lots for construction of single family homes. According to the notes, it appears this will be an unlisted action. We need not to make any secret classification until we receive an EAF Part 1, completed using DEC mapper and an engineered plan. The property is located within 100 feet of the town of New Paltz boundary, but is likely exempt from referral under the agreement with the Ulster County Planning Board as a subdivision with fewer than 5 lots, provided no access roads or structures are located within the 100-year floodplain. Because it is within 500 feet of the town boundary, notice of public hearing will need to go to the town clerk electronically at least 10 days prior to the hearing. Public hearing is also going to be required. So Floyd, I guess what we need for you in our terms of our next step is we need to get an EAF from you. And then we're going to need to review the sketch plan. Did everyone get a chance to look at the information that was sent in the sketch plans?
John, just
Yeah.
one thing so that we're clear on the EAF.
Yes, sir.
Is that it has to be an EAF that is filled out electronically tied to the digital DEC mapper.
Okay. So some of the issues we have then, as they are related. Rick, would you like to take us through the specific issues that you've outlined here?
Sure. The sketch plan is required under the code. The sketch plan doesn't comply with some of the requirements of the code for what a sketch plan should be like. And so the applicant should go ahead and redo the sketch plan to have that. But I think what would make more sense is that because it's under 5 lots, it's only 4 lots, is that you go to under the village code, you skip the preliminary subdivision and you go straight to go and fill out for the final subdivision approval. And that requires that it be prepared by a land surveyor or professional engineer. And it requires various things like any subdivision does so that it's a plat that will be recordable with the county clerk. So I think for tonight, you can look at this sketch plan. It's not a sketch plan that complies with what was required. But if he's then going to submit a final subdivision plat that complies with the code, I don't see any real need of having an interim revised sketch plan. It has enough information for you to understand basically what they want. There'll be a lot more detail in the next submittal, including the fact that I think there's 2 lots that don't even show driveways on this particular plan. So obviously all driveways and access points have to be particularly located because whatever gets approved, that's where you can put it and you can't put it elsewhere. You also have to have the necessary bulk table requirements and proximity map included within there. It's all very clearly outlined in the village code as to all the requirements of a final subdivision plat. There are things that you're allowed to waive, but that's up to the applicant to ask you to waive those provisions, such as topo and some other things that are otherwise required. So the applicant should look at all the requirements with his engineer and decide what things they will be putting on and ask for relief from things that they don't think are necessary, given the size of these lots and their location. So I think that's pretty much it with respect to the deficiencies in the sketch plan, but you can discuss that sketch plan. It requires lots of things about name and addresses of the owner and adjacent places. map location of the tract with respect to surrounding properties, major roads, et cetera. But I think the best way to do it is just come back with a final site plan that's going to have all that detail. And others, you should, as we talked about with other applications, you need to be going ahead and addressing stormwater. That will be somewhat highlighted in your EAF. And the applicant, once you give the EAF, the board next time can type the action. I don't know, I think you may have to go to the Department of Health or something with respect to the, oh no, you're not going to have wells or septic, I assume. Well, anyway, your EAF is going to determine whether or not, along with your engineer, there are any other governmental approvals that are required. If there's no other governmental approvals that are required, then the board can assume lead agency. Otherwise, they will send out a notice of intent to be lead agency. And then at a subsequent meeting, they'll go over, I imagine the board would want me to prepare a part 2 EAF after looking at the part 1, and then the board will seek a determination of significance in the next few meetings.
Very good. Floyd, you got all that?
Yes, can I just make a couple comments too?
Sure.
I was treating this kind of as a conceptual or sketch plan because it's a pretty simple. There was a few things I wanted to discuss with the board before moving forward. One of that was the driveway cuts, both on Henry Du Bois and Prospect Street. And also, if you guys prefer, and maybe it's simpler for me to commit to house design so we could do site plan in conjunction with this. Wanted to get a read from you guys on that, just so I didn't have to come back every time like we did with the current subdivision site plan review we're doing over on Millbrook Road.
So you're asking us if, in addition to the site plan, that if you can present to us the house design?
Well, if you think it would be a better review altogether if I did subdivision and site plan together instead of coming back individually and doing site plans after the fact, since we have to do site plans for building permits now.
I'll weigh in a little bit before the planning board does, just so I can put it in context for them. Is that's typically a decision that the applicant makes. So the applicant can have a bare subdivision by which it just sets out the subdivided lines, and the planning board would approve that. There has to be enough information on there as to site location and access to demonstrate that there can be homes placed upon each of those lots. So you have to put some information there to show that those lots are buildable lots. But that would otherwise, I mean, with that proof, they could just go ahead and approve just 4 separate parcels. And then whenever somebody wanted to build on them, they would have to come back for site plan review. The other way to deal with it, as you've indicated, is to fully engineer it and put in the proposed homes, what they're going to look like, where the access is going to be, and put all that on the plans. And when those plans get approved, the houses are approved on there. They still need to get a building permit, but you don't have to come back for site plan because you've done it in conjunction with your subdivision review. But it's typically a decision not made by the planning board. It's a decision that's made by the applicant as to whether or not that makes more sense for him or her.
Yeah, I'm aware of that. I just, I didn't know if the planning board had frustrations related to subdivision being approved prior to site plans. And typically in a town, we don't have site plan review for when you come back to build the houses. So I just wanted to get an idea if that was better for you all. And for that,
I think it would certainly, it would take more time at the meeting and preparation before the meeting on the part of the board, so that we could go through the site plan and the design rather than just have the subdivision and say this is just the blank land. I think it would help us to formulate better questions. For instance, are you planning on having a parking garage for the cars there? where's the sidewalk? There's just a lot of information that I think if you had the instead of just the concept, if you had the detail there as well, I think it would probably make it easier for us to move forward to a more thoughtful decision quicker than if we don't have it and take multiple meetings out. Because I understand that's a frustration on the part of some of the builders is having to return with new plans and each time. So Zach, Dennis, what do you guys think about that?
I think if Floyd is willing to have a fully engineered site plan with all the buildings on it, then yeah, then I would be interested in seeing that, and I think it would help us make our decision.
Tom, Dennis?
I agree. If I see Floyd's point of view, if rather than going back and forth all the time, if he came and showed us the site plan as well as the proposed buildings and driveways and so forth, hopefully we can make a quick decision for him to go ahead.
Yeah, that makes sense to me as well.
Okay. So the first thing that we've got to conquer is the EAF Part 1. So that's really kind of our next step, Lloyd. We can get that going.
Sure.
And that way we can start to work through it. That gives you time to complete the fully engineered site plan and allows us to go through the EAF Part 1, make our declaration, declare our intent to be lead agency and move down that path that we've done before.
Okay. The second question I had was related to the driveway cuts. The reason I showed the one on Henry Du Bois is because I'm aware of the upcoming project for the bike and pedestrian path coming down. So I felt Henry Du Bois being a more congested road would handle a single curb cut for both driveways, but I'm not sure if that may be the best plan on Prospect Street. And I just wanted to know if the planning board wanted to have any comments about that. I would certainly try to keep the driveway cuts as far from the intersection as possible. So the one for lot 1 would be on the south side. I just don't know if it would share with lot 2 or not, or if that's not as important to you guys. And I kind of just design it how I think I need to.
Well, if you have a shared driveway, of course, we get into the easements.
I think they would just be side by side. So from the town's point of view, it's just one curb cut, but it's two separate driveways, just side by side. I hear what you're saying on that. So that was the only other question.
For that second curb cut that you've noted on Henry W. Du Bois.
Yeah, so that would be the lots 3 and 4. Their driveways would be side by side. So my understanding right now is that the pedestrian trail is on the south side of Henry Du Bois, and there is a guardrail. So that would help. It would just be one break in that guardrail there that they share. So I thought it was important enough to at least show that. I just don't know on Prospect Street or if there's a standing methodology on the planning board that you prefer side-by-side driveways, or maybe it's not as important on secondary roads like Prospect Street. I know it seems like one thing of many that I got to figure out when we go to do the topos and everything else and the stormwater design and all that, but it's just something would help me design the house layouts in the houses as well if I knew that. Moving forward.
I mean, my personal thought is to have side by sides. That gives you distance between the two houses. That's just my personal wish.
I like the idea, Floyd, that you just have one curb cut for the two driveways. I think the elimination of curb cuts is a good idea. I don't see any issue with it on Henry Du Bois with the bike lane. And I guess it's your call on Prospect Street, which is a lot less traveled road, whichever works best for you is fine with me.
Okay, and then one last thing, sidewalks. On Henry Du Bois, they are putting in the pedestrian trail, but obviously Prospect Street doesn't have sidewalks on that part. So I was assuming I would be putting sidewalk along Prospect Street, but I'm not sure if that's the side you want it on or not. So maybe that's just something we would take up in the future.
So you're looking at putting a sidewalk on Prospect Street. Is that what you just?
Well, I'm assuming you're gonna want one, and I'm sure the subdivision code requires sidewalks.
Yeah.
So if I put it on my side, the east side, if I remember right, the sidewalk on the west side of Prospect Street extends longer than the sidewalk on the east side. So I'm not sure if there's any preference there, but I can maybe have further conversations with Blue or someone else on that one.
Yeah, I think if you discussed it with Blue, it would be a good idea.
Yeah, Blue and Corey, the people to go to on that one. And I have to admit that I don't know everything that's going to be happening with the bike trail down Henry W. Du Bois.
So that's all I had, and I just did this simply just so I can have a framework so you guys can look at what my thinking was before moving forward to more engineer drawings. I do have the surveyor planning on going out there in the next week or two to start the boundaries and the topos, so that he can also work on the stormwater issues that will come up as well.
Well, it looks like a nice project.
Thanks, Dennis.
Okay.
So that's all I have.
All right. So just to review here. So we're going to have, you're going to do both the site plan as well as the house design. But we do need to get the EAF part 1. Yeah, I think that's it. Rick, anything else that we need to add to that, or does that cover everything that we need to know for the time?
I think it covers everything. I think, typically though, you would come in with, the draft of the final subdivision plat in this case, because there's just 4 lots, together with the EAF. Because that way it's easier for the board to identify issues, environmental issues that they have to address with the EAF and subsequent part 2. Because if you just submit the EAF, I think they'll likely just hold off until you get the final subdivision plat with the information so that they can adequately review it. So it may make sense just to allow the drafting of the final subdivision plat and the proposed one, let that drive the bus, and then when you submit that, submit it together with an EAF.
That makes sense to me. So I wouldn't need to do anything further with the board until I have my next stage prepared as the draft final plat, along with the EAF and whatever site plan part I have with that as well. I don't see this being a quick process, so I get it's going to be multiple stages and probably be another month or so anyway before I get all that.
Yeah, I think that's correct. Okay.
Does there need to be any action from the board before I make that step?
No.
No, I mean, the action the board could take, which I've suggested, and I don't think the board wants to take it, is requiring you to come back with a sketch plan that conforms to the code. I think it was enough for the board to get an idea about it, give you some initial feedback, and then you come back with your next stage of engineered plans.
Okay. Thanks.
Okay. Thanks very much, Floyd. Appreciate it. next, we're going to be moving to site plan PB 2117. Let me take a look here. That is at 62 South Chestnut. Corey did make a memo here.
I didn't see this one on the
I didn't see
agenda.
this either.
You know, it isn't actually, it isn't on the agenda. That's set for the agenda next, at our next meeting. That's my fault. I apologize for that.
It is item number 4 on the agenda,
Is it? Item number,
site plan amendment. There's a link as well to the amended site plan.
And that's for, the number 4 is 1602. That's net zero. Right?
right.
The 2117, the last thing we had a meeting on December 21st. They were before us. You discussed a bunch of conditions and
Yes.
authorized us to prepare a resolution of approval for January 18th meeting.
Yes, yes, you're right. Again, I apologize. That's my fault.
That's all right.
Not a problem.
Okay, so then our next item is going to be PB 1602 Zero Place. David, do you want to step forward and talk a little bit about the placement of
Right.
the what is it, a power pack, or what is it?
Yeah. I put together this package. First of all, I apologize if I cough a little bit here. I discovered yesterday I came down with the Omicron COVID, and so I'm still recovering from that. But so I apologize ahead of time if I pause the audio for a second. So yes, thank you, Mr. Golden, for giving me kind of a really easy path here to just say, hey, if you could just mark up like the changes to the site plan. I went a little bit beyond that because I wanted to tell the full story. I also wanted to address some of the questions that folks like Rachel Lagodka raised about like supposedly removing trees and stuff like that. So I've added a little bit more meat to this thing. Is Rachel on, by the way?
Yes.
Oh, she is.
She was. I don't think she is right now.
Well, that's a shame because anyway. So let me just start, and interrupt me at any time if you want to steer me in some particular way. But let me just tell you the story, okay? I'm going to highlight 2 of kind of the infield modifications. These things are common, as I've learned, that when you take an abstract concept like a site plan and you begin to get in the field and actually implement the thing, you face the realities of physics and the physical world. Right, I'm going to give you a couple examples of these. Right, the one that you're most concerned about is the loss of parking space and that resulted from the shift of the dumpster enclosure. So let me start there. So, as our engineer Barry Medenbach explained in the letter that you guys reviewed at the last meeting. By the way, I listened to the whole meeting yesterday, and that's what kind of prompted a lot of the specifics in here. But as Barry Medenbach mentioned, and as I later learned from our construction team when I went back to understand this better, they explained that when they started to work with Central Hudson, they had to deal with a lot of complexity around the electric system that drives Zero Place. We have a generator pad, we have a very large transformer, and if you'd seen this thing, if you ever wandered onto the site before we had filled in this area, you would see the incredible amount of electric wiring that feeds these systems. Added to that, the gas service to the building also runs through this area. It only feeds our generator, but it still requires a certain amount of spacing. Anyway, as the construction team worked with Central Hudson, they realized that it really would help a lot to shift the dumpster enclosure about 3 feet to the north, not believing that that wouldn't really have any effect to the overall site, right? And just to put that in perspective, 3 feet is about the length of my arm. So it wasn't until about months later when our team actually started striping out the lot that they realized what they had done. And what you can see here are the actual striping set against the original site plan. You can see that 3.24 foot shift of the dumpster enclosure. And so when they got to that 11th space, they ran into the realities that our site in the northwest corner is very limited, right? And oh my gosh, they realized that spot is not going to be doable. We went back to the drawing table, tried to play with this whole area to see if we could somehow accommodate that spot. But at the end of the day, physics are physics, and we couldn't do it. Just to give you a sense of other kinds of infield modifications we made that we're fortunately able to salvage and not have to come to you to ask for a change in the parking allotment. When we built the retaining wall along the north end here, as we started to do it per the plan, we started running into the root system of the large oak that's planted at the north side. And for those of you who were on the planning board back when this project was approved, you'll remember all of the lengths to which we went to ensure protection of that very large, beautiful oak tree at the north end of the lot, right? So we started to eat into that root system when we realized that's not good. And so the team in the field decided to trim that wall back. But then we realized, oh no, that compromises this space. Now we were able to salvage that and not have to ask you for any kinds of accommodation because we were able to turn that space and put a parallel spot here and just stripe off this area. So we got fortunate there, but we were not fortunate on this row of originally 11 spaces. So we're asking for the planning board to approve essentially the elimination of a single space because of the consequences of shifting that dumpster enclosure over. To speak to the, I'll just to answer some of Rachel's questions. She had raised, I don't know where she believed that we had eliminated a tree, but that's not true. There are no trees eliminated anywhere on this site. In fact, as Corey Worthman will tell you, we actually have more trees than were requested, that were approved. We planted an additional tree along Route 32 and so forth. We have moved some of the other infield modifications. We've moved some of the shrubs around to accommodate things in that northwest corner, but we have met all of the requirements in terms of the number of shrubs and the number of trees that the planning board approved. And it's common, as Corey will tell you, for things to shift around as you see the realities of the site, as you're finalizing your as-is landscaping. But anyway, the key is what we're focused on here is the elimination of this single parking spot, restriping it, and having 76 instead of 77 total parking spaces at 0 place. Any questions?
No, with it's one spot, and you've made some other accommodations to the board in terms of parking and trees and other things. So Corey has asked. I'm sorry. What?
Sorry. Go ahead, John.
So what we're going to have to do for our next steps, and I'm going to read you a bit about Corey's, is we've done the public hearing and we're leaving it open, adjourning it to 1:18. We've just looked at the proposed modifications. Corey's asked whether the planning board should also be reviewing and approving the tubular steel pipe system used as a guardrail for workers performing the maintenance and other duties on the roof, which is a code requirement and is on the building plans. but aesthetically it is unappealing to the eye. The railing is mandatory as its code requirement and was approved by the building department during construction code review. However, the problem is the color and style that has been noticed by some as not part of the planning board approval process. And the explanation that I received, and David, you can certainly tell me if this is true or not. Corey said that in terms of aesthetics, if you are looking up at them against the sky, that it makes it less notable with the particular color, and that the style is something that is required by the code. So it seems that the only piece that would be up for any sort of discussion, which is outside of the code, would be the color. But you, I believe, told Corey, and he agreed that by looking up, it is less noticeable against the background of the sky.
Yeah, I'll tell you, I'll be perfectly honest with you. I don't like them. I don't like those railings at all. They take away from the building from my perspective. But the bottom line is you've got to build a system that can withstand up to a 300-pound person falling against the edge and hold them on the building, right? So it requires a certain amount of beefiness. I argued with my partners on this. They told me you got to have this kind of heft. In terms of the color, in our opinion, the best thing we can do is keep them the lightest color they are. The same logic that applies, and I wrote this in the email that I sent you, right? The same logic that applies to why we chose a light color for the upper story of the building, the sage, was because that makes the upper story disappear, set against the starkness of brick with the lower 3 stories, right? So if you were to ask us to paint it a dark color, it would make those hefty, that hefty system pop out even more. So we suggest that you allow us to keep it as galvanized steel, which is the lightest color that we can make it, and leave it the way that we've installed it.
Also, Dave, if I could just, point out, this is a requirement for emergency services. Code requires a railing or a tie-off system. And originally what we envisioned was a center cable. So if someone went out to service the solar panels, they would cable off with a safety line to the cable, and they could just walk out without fear of falling. Never really considered emergency services having to access the roof system in case there's, say, a fire up there and the solar array. And then Corey, rightly so, pointed out a code requirement that requires a safety railing. It's a very specific railing, and unfortunately, that's what the railing is.
Very good. So are there any questions that anyone from the board has on that? No? Okay. Then listed in the actions that are required that we need to do is we are going to need to adopt a motion that is reaffirming the negative declaration that was issued for this applicant at PB 1602 on or about September 5th, 2017, finding that the proposed modifications will not have any significant adverse environmental impacts.
So motion.
Second?
Second.
So all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So we have adopted the motion to reaffirm the negative declaration that was issued for PB 1602 back on September 5th, 2017, finding that the proposed modifications will not have any significant adverse environmental impacts. The next thing that we're going to do is we're going to review a draft resolution that was prepared by our attorney modify it as we need to, and that way we can have it ready for approval on the 18th meeting if we are satisfied with the amendment and following the end of the public hearing. Did everyone get a copy of this, or is this something that needs to be sent to you right now?
Yeah, I have a copy of it.
Okay. I thought I sent it out with or I thought that our attorney sent it out with the memos for the meeting.
Yeah, I have it as well.
Okay.
And I just sent it now to David.
Okay, Zach, do you have that as well?
Yes, I do.
Okay. So there's really no reason to read this then word for word. The following resolutions introduced says the planning board granted net zero on April 3rd, 2018. Planning board granted net zero development subdivision special use permit and site plan approval for the net zero energy mixed use building. Whereas the applicant seeks approval of a site plan amendment to eliminate one parking space and a tree.
So that's what I had heard previously. So
Okay.
what David is saying, I guess, is that there's no tree being removed. Is that correct?
Right.
That's correct.
Okay, so we'll need to eliminate that. So whereas the applicant seeks approval of a site plan amendment to eliminate one parking space and for approval of a worker safety rail that has been added to the roof as required by the building department to comply with the state building code. And whereas the planning board's reviews the proposed site plan amendment depicted on the plan sheet for the loss of one parking space. And whereas the public hearing was opened on January 4th, 2022 and continued to January 18th. And whereas the planning board voted to reaffirm the negative declaration issued, then there's the resolution that conditions and prior approvals have been met. Village shall have the right to enter upon the property for purpose of inspection, et cetera, et cetera. Do we have any comments on that right now that you feel need to be made? Okay. Then it looks like that we just need some modifications on it and it'll be ready for approval at the 1/18/22 meeting. So really that's kind of the end of the next steps that we need to take on this. Do we need to do anything else, Mr. Attorney?
No, Mr.
Okay.
Chairperson.
There you go.
And so, sorry, can I ask a quick question?
Yes, please.
So you want us to submit the revised site plan, and do you want us to send that immediately? Like, when do you need that by?
The board will go ahead and unless something changes and there's new comments in the next comment period, after it's been advertised by Ariana in the local paper for January 18th. They'll read the resolution since they've gone through everything else, bring up anything else they want, but they will approve the site plan that you have submitted. I would, prior to that meeting, just submit that site plan and maybe have a signature block on there for the chairperson to sign. And then once that's approved, the chairperson can sign that and then you'll be all set.
Great.
Okay. Very good. So you have your checklist to go through. So we'll look forward to getting that information and then continuing the public hearing on the 18th. So we'll see you then.
Thank you guys for being so accommodating and flexible. Appreciate Mr. Golden in particular, your thoughtfulness around navigating the stuff with, to get us on January 4th. So thanks.
Okay. So with that, we come back to our public comments. Ariana, have we seen anyone with any public comments, or is there anyone who would like to make additional public comments? No? Okay.
I don't have anybody in the queue, but if anybody here wants to, just unmute yourself.
Very good. Okay, so with that in mind, I would like a motion to close the public comments.
So motion.
Second,
Seconded.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. So the public comments are now closed. So any other comments, anything else that any member of the board believes we need to cover before we go to adjournment? No? Okay. So the next thing I need is a motion to adjourn.
So motion.
Second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Very good. So thank you very much for your attention. Appreciate it. And we're done for the evening, and we'll see you on the 18th. We'll probably get a summary out on this, and away we'll go.